Max Verstappen has won 4 times at the Red Bull Ring. It's his team's home circuit, their name above the entrance, their grandstands filled with orange flags every June. And heading into this weekend, Verstappen has said publicly that Red Bull is simply the fourth fastest team on the grid. There's also a Ferrari engine upgrade arriving that could directly close the gap to Mercedes on the power circuit they need it most. And McLaren, who ran a 1-2 here last year, have a tyre problem following them from Barcelona that the softest compounds on the calendar will do no favours for. Austria doesn't just deliver a race, it delivers verdicts. Here's what to watch for. The Red Bull Ring looks simple on paper, just 10 corners across 4.318 kilometres, but the lap has a split personality that creates natural winners and losers before a wheel has turned. The first 3 corners are separated by long straights where engine power and late braking decide everything. The run to turn 1 is just under a kilometre, braking into the tightest hairpin on the circuit at turn 3 sees drivers decelerate from over 300 kilometres an hour to under 90 in a matter of metres, with 5G of deceleration load. The second half of the lap drops downhill through a faster flowing sequence where car balance and driver confidence decide the lap time. The circuit also sits 660 metres above sea level in the Styrian Hills, where the air is roughly 8% thinner than at sea level. Thinner air means less aerodynamic grip, turbos working harder, and a power unit test that Austria has never delivered before, because these are the first 2026 power units to run at altitude. Nobody knows exactly how each manufacturer responds until qualifying on Saturday. That uncertainty alone makes this weekend different from every previous race in 2026. Ferrari arrive in Austria with the most significant development story of the weekend. The team is introducing its first ADUO power unit upgrade at Spielberg, pending final FIA approval, a new cylinder head design alongside a freshly developed Shell fuel compound. Reports estimate the combined gain at somewhere between 6 and 8 horsepower. That's worth just over a tenth of a second on a lap, and at a circuit with 4 straight-line drag zones where Ferrari have been losing ground to Mercedes all season, a tenth might be the difference between winning and losing the race. The plan is 2-stage. Austria is the first step, with a heavier second upgrade scheduled for Monza in September. Ferrari believes that second step puts them at power parity with Mercedes. They're not there yet, but at the circuit where the engine matters most, this side of Monza, the direction of travel is unmistakable. Lewis Hamilton, who has already described the SF26 as the best car he's driven in years, arrives in Austria with a chassis the paddock rates as the best on the grid and an engine that's about to get better. Austria is a Mercedes circuit on paper, 4 straight-line mode zones, a predictable energy deployment pattern across the lap, and altitude conditions that should, in theory, favour the hybrid architecture Mercedes has optimised across 7 races. George Russell has spoken about wanting a clean, controlled weekend to reset after a brutal run of results. Kimi Antonelli arrives needing to reassert control of a championship lead that went from 68 points to 41 in a single Barcelona afternoon. The W17 has more raw pace around this circuit than any other car. If Mercedes can deliver a clean weekend, the title argument starts again in their favour. But Austria's altitude creates one specific threat. It puts extra load on power units, and Mercedes' reliability pattern this season, 4 power unit related failures across their customer fleet, means a 5th failure would not just cost points. It would raise questions the team has been trying to close down since Canada. Pirelli have brought the C3, C4 and C5 compounds to Austria, the softest range available in the 2026 tyre set, designed for a surface where degradation is almost entirely thermal, not mechanical. The asphalt at Spielberg is old and abrasive and generates heat rapidly, particularly through the heavy braking and acceleration zones at turns 3 and 4. For McLaren, the timing couldn't be worse. The 30-second gap between Norris and Piastri in Barcelona on the same compound range, with no explanation publicly given by the team or drivers, pointed to a tyre temperature problem that isn't circuit specific. If McLaren can't get the C5 into its operating window during qualifying at a circuit with 3 long straights and limited overtaking opportunities, starting 5th in a car capable of 2nd is a gap that won't close over 71 laps. McLaren's own preview for Austria describes it as historically a strong circuit for them, but historically includes last year when Norris and Piastri ran a straightforward 1-2 in a dominant car. This year's MCL 40 is a different problem. The softest compounds on the calendar are not what McLaren need this week. 4 wins, 4 poles. The circuit carrying the team's name, Verstappen arrives in Austria as the driver of the 4th fastest car on the grid by his own public assessment. The RB.22 has struggled most at high energy, high degradation circuits, which is exactly what Austria is. The curbs at Spielberg are among the most aggressive on the calendar, and aggressive curbs punish an unstable platform, which is the word multiple sources inside the paddock have used about the 2026 Red Bull. Verstappen will also enter this weekend with his exit clause, situation hanging directly overhead. The clause activates at the summer break, just 3 races away. Red Bull are reportedly trying to buy it out. Verstappen hasn't committed. There is a real possibility that what Verstappen sees from the cockpit this weekend, how competitive the car is at his home circuit against teams that have been pulling away from him all season, informs a decision that reshapes the entire 2027 grid. The grandstands will be full of people who have paid to watch him win. Whether the car can deliver what they expect is the most uncomfortable question in the paddock right now. 3 things this weekend will reveal more about where the 2026 championship is heading than any race since Melbourne. First, watch Ferrari in qualifying. If the ADUO upgrade lands cleanly and Hamilton or Leclerc takes pole at a power-sensitive circuit, the title fight isn't just close, it's genuinely open. If the upgrade makes no visible difference, the championship probably ends in a Mercedes 1-2. Second, watch Piastri specifically on his first timed lap in qualifying on the C5. If the soft tyre doesn't come to him immediately, McLaren's tyre problem is structural and their title defence doesn't recover regardless of how Norris drives. Third, watch Verstappen's gap to the leaders at the end of his first stint. If he's within 3 seconds, Red Bull have found something at a circuit that should expose them. If he's already losing ground before the first pit window opens, his decision before the summer break becomes significantly easier to make. Austria this weekend is more than a race, it's a Ferrari engine debut, it's a McLaren tyre test, it's a Mercedes reliability statement, and it's a Red Bull home race at exactly the moment their own driver says they're 4th fastest. Lights out Sunday, full breakdown after the checkered flag. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and tell us in the comments, do you think Red Bull can surprise at their home circuit, or does Austria make the Verstappen decision inevitable?